There's a strange kind of tiredness that shows up right after everything slows down. Not the kind that comes from doing too much, but the kind that comes when there's nothing left to distract you. If today feels quiet in a way that makes you uncomfortable, you're not imagining it. And you're not failing at anything. A lot of people wake up at the beginning of a new stretch of time, a new week, a new month, a new year, and assume they should feel motivated, clear, ready, but instead, they feel flat, heavy, foggy, like their energy didn't come back when everything else did. So the mind looks for an explanation. And the easiest one is self-blame. I'm being lazy. I should want more. I'm wasting time. But what if that's not what's happening at all? What if this tiredness isn't a lack of discipline, but a moment of return? After long periods of emotional output, social connection, expectations, noise, roles, the nervous system doesn't bounce back instantly. It contracts. It goes quiet. It needs space. Especially if, for most of your life, you learn to stay alert. To read the room. To be useful. To respond quickly. When things finally slow down, your system doesn't know what to do with the silence, so it feels uncomfortable instead of restful. This is why rest doesn't always feel good at first. Because rest removes structure. And structure used to feel like safety. If you grew up needing to adapt, emotionally, socially, or mentally, then movement felt safer than stillness. Doing felt safer than being. Responsibility felt safer than choice. When there's nothing pushing you ahead, your body feels uncertain, not free. And uncertainty feels heavy. That doesn't mean you're lazy. It means your system is recalibrating. There's also something else happening here that most people don't talk about. When external demands disappear, you're left alone with your internal signals. Your real preferences, your real limits, your real exhaustion. And if you're not used to listening to yourself without judgment, that can feel disorienting. You might notice you don't want what you thought you wanted. Or you don't have the energy you expected to have. Or that pushing yourself no longer works the way it used to. That's not regression. That's awareness. Coming back to yourself is rarely loud or productive. It often looks like hesitation. Like moving slower than usual. Like not knowing what the next step is yet. But slowness isn't the absence of direction. It's the pause before alignment. Many people confuse rest with stopping. But rest is actually an active process for the nervous system. It's integration. Your body and mind are sorting through what mattered, what drained you, and what no longer fits. And that sorting can feel like emptiness before it feels like clarity. If you pressure yourself during this phase to decide, to optimize, to restart, you interrupt that process. You teach your system that even quiet isn't allowed. And then you wonder why burnout keeps coming back. There's a version of you that learned to survive by staying in motion. By staying needed. By staying responsive. That version doesn't trust pauses, because pauses once meant vulnerability. So when you slow down now, it triggers an old reflex. Something is wrong. But nothing is wrong. You're just coming back to yourself. And that return doesn't announce itself with confidence. It whispers. It asks softer questions, like, what do I actually have capacity for right now? What feels tolerable? What feels safe enough? These are not questions laziness asks. These are questions of self-respect. The problem is, we live in a culture that only validates effort when it's visible, when it produces, when it can be measured. Internal recalibration doesn't look impressive, but is foundational. Without it, any motivation you force will be borrowed energy. And borrowed energy always needs to be paid back with interest. So if today you feel unmotivated, unfocused, or uninterested in pushing yourself, try not to label it too quickly. Ask a different question. Not, what's wrong with me, but what am I recovering from? Because people who are truly lazy don't feel conflicted about not doing more. They don't feel guilt. They don't feel pressure. If you feel uneasy about slowing down, it's usually because a part of you still believes your worth depends on momentum. Healing doesn't remove that belief overnight. It softens it slowly. And softness often feels like weakness before it feels like relief. You don't need to become more disciplined right now. You don't need a better system. You don't need to push past this feeling. You need permission to move at the speed your nervous system can actually sustain. That might mean fewer decisions, shorter days, lower expectations, or simply letting yourself exist without a plan for a little while. Coming back to yourself isn't about finding a new version of you. It's about noticing the one that's been quiet because it was busy surviving. And that version deserves time, not pressure. So if today feels slow, let it be slow. You're not falling behind. You're arriving.